So a lot of people have been saying they think that the Sunrise Countdown is going to be included in the Infinity Castle movie trilogy. And is this true, do you think? What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And we're going to be discussing Infinity Castle once again. I think this is my third video on it, but I'm really hyped for this arc, so I have a lot of thoughts, and whenever I have a lot of thoughts, I'm just like, I should turn on the camera and talk about this because I have a YouTube channel for this kind of stuff. So here I am. But after I posted my most recent video about Infinity Castle, where I just kind of talked about my predictions for each movie and what battles it was going to cover, a lot of people were trying to tell me that they think that the trilogy is in fact going to include Sunrise Countdown, and I don't think so. Like, I don't see any world where this can actually happen. And I think this comes from a lot of just like taking certain leaks and information at face value. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to really research chapters and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to try and figure out, is it even feasible for Infinity Castle to be squeezed into like 2 movies and then Sunrise Countdown into 1? And I came up with a conclusion that I'm going to talk about now. So first of all, I do want to say a lot of the reason why people think that Sunrise Countdown will be included in this movie trilogy is because a leaker did say that the Hashira training arc was the end of the TV series, as in we're not getting any more seasons in this story at all. They're all going to be movies. And when you take that at face value, you can say, okay, so we're going to get the movie trilogy and that's going to be it. And symmetrically, I'm watching Soul Eater right now, so I'm thinking about symmetric stuff a lot more now, thanks Death the Kid. Symmetrically, a movie trilogy to end it would make sense. Even though that's an uneven number and 4 would be an even number, I feel like when it comes to movies, more people would be like, a trilogy would make sense because it would just be a movie trilogy and that's it. But looking at the chapter count, this doesn't make any sense. So first of all, I've said this before and I will say it again. Ufotable only announces arc by arc. So when one arc ends, they announce how they're going to adapt the next arc. They have been doing this since they started doing Demon Slayer. Now, in case you didn't know, also, the first season is technically one arc. It is called the Tanjiro Kamado Unwavering Resolve arc. That arc just happened to have a lot of mini arcs within it, but those are not those aren't technical arcs. Those are all just battles within one overarching arc. So when that season ended, and that was the end of the technical first arc in the manga, they announced Mugen Train to be a movie. And they've been doing this ever since then. When Mugen Train kind of was out in theaters for a little while, they announced that Entertainment District was going to be a season. And then they announced that Swordsmith Village was going to be a season. And then they announced that Hashira Training was going to be a season. And then they announced that Infinity Castle is going to be a movie trilogy. All right, got that out of the way. Now remember, the final battle is split into 2 arcs, the Infinity Castle arc and the Sunrise Countdown arc. Now, a lot of people have been confused because they have been using wording like the final battle begins, but they have never once said the final arc begins. And I think that's an important thing to note. The final battle is 2 arcs. So yes, the final battle is in fact beginning, but that doesn't mean that it's the beginning of the final arc. So just based off of that, I think that Infinity Castle will get a full 3 movies, and then Sunrise Countdown will probably just get another 4th movie. If we're going to go off of what this leaker said, which they are a reliable leaker, but that would be my best assumption, is Infinity Castle is the trilogy, and then Sunrise Countdown gets its own movie. I'm holding out for a season. I think that Sunrise Countdown deserves a little bit more time than just 1 movie because it is still longer than Mugen Train, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And I think that that is the arc that could really, really benefit from some additional anime original content, but it is what it is. Ufotable's really good at making movies. I'm going to trust them till the end. All of that aside, Infinity Castle as 2 movies just doesn't make any sense. And that's based off of chapters. I did see someone try to say that it would be just like 2 Mugen Train movies and it would make sense to make Infinity Castle into 2, and let me tell you the chapter count though. Mugen Train is way less than half of the Infinity Castle arc. Mugen Train is officially only 12 chapters long. It is the second shortest arc in the entire story, with the shortest being Hashira Training, which we just got through in only technically 7 episodes. While Infinity Castle is 43 chapters. Now, I will say we we can deduct 3 chapters from that because episode 8 of Hashira Training was the first 3 chapters of Infinity Castle arc, technically. So if you do the math, that means if we're only getting 2 movies for Infinity Castle, that would mean they have to adapt 20 chapters in each, when Mugen Train was only 12. That is a lot more chapters. Now, I'm not saying this isn't possible. All they need to really do is just extend run times, and instead of it being around an hour and 40 minutes like Mugen Train was, it would need to be closer to 2.5 hours. I am a-okay with a 2.5 hour long movie. That's totally fine, but that's more of a Hollywood movie type runtime. Japan usually keeps them at under 2 hours. Also, a side note, Sunrise Countdown is 21 chapters. So, like... Cramming 65 chapters into 3 movies just sounds so wild and out of this world to me. Now, there still is that possibility, because Sunrise Countdown is 21 chapters, then obviously if we're going off of that, then we could say if that's going to be a movie, then obviously the other 2 movies could be 20 chapters. So I think that is the one point where I say maybe this trilogy is just going to be the end. That's going to be it, and they're planning on doing around 20 chapters per movie. I just don't see that happening, though, because Ufotable knows, they know that, especially Sunrise Countdown arc, the only gripes that most people have with it is that it felt a little bit rushed, and Gotoge Sensei themselves have even said that they were rushed, they were having family issues, they just kind of had to end the story rather than go on hiatus, and because of that, that arc does definitely at times feel quite a bit rushed. I think when all is said and done, the story ended very, very well, but there is definitely an opportunity to add a couple things here and there just to extend some things that happened. I'm not going to go into detail because that would be manga spoilers, but I will say Sunrise Countdown is the one arc that I truly feel would benefit heavily from anime original content. And if they cram Infinity Castle and Sunrise Countdown, if they cram 20 chapters into each movie, even if they extend the time, I just don't see that really working out in that favor. Now, if they do only Infinity Castle in the trilogy, they'll be adapting roughly 15-ish, like 12 to 15 chapters a movie, which is exactly what they did with Mugen Train. And one thing that Ufotable is really good at, it is remaining consistent. They do things the same every single time with maybe small changes here and there. So I can definitely see them keeping the runtime of each movie around an hour and 40 minutes. And that would mean that if this was a trilogy of just Infinity Castle, the runtime of being an hour and 40 minutes, they adapt 12 to 15 chapters. It'll have the same flow as Mugen Train. Mugen Train, I think, did a really, really good job at pacing and flow. It worked out really, really well. And I could see them doing it that way. I don't really see them trying to rush to get this done anytime soon either, because Ufotable knows that Demon Slayer is just a complete treasure box of money and marketing for them, and they're going to run this show on as long as they possibly can, which is why I truly believe that Infinity Castle is going to be the trilogy, and Sunrise Countdown, once the Infinity Castle trilogy is over, we'll get an additional announcement, more than likely still a movie based off of leaks, but because of the length of it, I'm really hoping that it gets its own season rather than a movie, and we end with an episodic release of maybe 12 episodes in that season. I think that's just more doable. I think that's going to keep fans happier. I think that's going to keep it on the air longer, which is what Ufotable definitely wants to do, and that would be my best prediction. I really can't say much else to it. I think chapter-wise, it being a trilogy for Infinity Castle alone just makes so much more sense based off of Mugen Train and their chapters. And that's what I'm going to go into this trilogy expecting, is I'm going to expect it to be a trilogy of Infinity Castle, and Sunrise Countdown will be its own entity. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you think that they're going to squeeze all of it into one trilogy and then that's going to be the end of Demon Slayer? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, but that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, don't forget to like the video. You can also subscribe to my channel for more Demon Slayer and anime related videos. You can also turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And finally, you can follow me on social media. I am at Looking Nerdy on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and all of that is linked in the description below. Thanks for watching today's video, and as always, Johnny!